Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and once again it is time for a max effort lower day. But a quick reminder for those of you who watch these videos, please remember to click like down below, be greatly appreciated. I started off with just a back squat with the buffalo bar built up to 502. Quite happy with the depth, quite happy with how it felt, went up fairly quickly, and I just kind of called it there. We're going to get a little more aggressive with this over time though. And I also messed with just a little bit of sumo pulling for some singles after I didn't put it up on camera because I wasn't happy with how it looked, and I realized, I still don't have the hip mobility to do sumo, haven't done it in a year, even though I pulled 570 about a year ago when I was playing with sumo for a little while. Probably better off with conventional for me. Still make a lot of my lifters do both. So here's the squat. Everything went pretty decent actually. Went quite good, nice and deep, came up fast, walked it in, racked it. So, I'll take it. Afterwards, I did kind of my normal stuff. I've got the new reverse hyper, and I messed with some goblet squats, and while they were okay, when I really look at what works for me, I may be better off just sticking to the belt squats and my sled work in GPP to build up quads. Now that I've adjusted this thing on it, and it might be the angle, I'm a little unhappy with the depth that I'm getting on these. Now, is it possible that's going to give me the same knee angle I need for the squat? With a power squat, maybe. But the strength felt good on these. I got a lot of work, and my quads felt a really, really deep stretch at the bottom. So that's why I'm kind of puzzled, when I look at the footage. And again, like I said, it could be angle. I may want to get a lower side shot to kind of see how deep I'm going, but I'd like these to be a little bit deeper, and if anything I may take 10 pounds off if I have to try to get that depth, because again, this is a hypertrophy movement. This is not an ego lift, so I really want to get the most development possible here. We could argue about quads and adductors versus glutes on depth, but at this point I feel like all the box squats I do, and then the posterior chain work should more than cover glutes. I don't need, to optimize glutes as far as depth goes. I really need the quads and adductors to come up from this movement. And of course the hip mobility and everything that we get from it. So something to work on there. So again, it's always good to use your footage to assess these things. This is why I tell people you really should document your training. Right? You really should video it, because if we go with just how we feel, and then you look at the cameras and you go, I don't know, were those deep enough? Can I get a deeper range of motion? Can I adjust the footing to do that? Will that deeper range of motion, particularly in a lengthened position, lead to more hypertrophy? So it's good to video these things, and I'm not saying there isn't something just coming in and going off feel and just using progressive overload. There's certainly not anything wrong with that approach. But in my case, when I'm really trying to maximize stimulus on each set, and I'm trying to mitigate overall fatigue, which is a lot of what my training is geared around, it makes sense that we would want to look at that. Now, the goblet squats probably should have taken a wider stance. And again, I may or may not keep some of these in and work them in. Sometimes I just wanted to use them a little bit today. I'd said in some of the other client vlogs, I possibly could use some. Because again, I make a lot of my clients do them, right? And me saying, oh, I'm not going to do them, I might be lying. I might just keep them in and work with them anyways. And they're definitely difficult. Definitely getting everything in position, not fun. But I used a 95-pound one and just did 2 sets of 10. Now, of course, I did a max squat first, and I did belt squats first. So I'm a little fatigued, and that's the idea. We're not coming in doing these fresh. I know that I could handle probably considerably more weight on these, but I think with the fatigue involved, they gave a nice good burn. Definitely felt some quad activation, a lot of upper back because of the way that we have to hold it. But in spite of that limit to the upper back, I still felt a lot of quads. Even with a weight that I probably could have handled more on. But that can also be that novel training response. All right. Afterwards, I did my 2 sets of glute ham raises. I'm finding right about 2 sets seems to not cause cramping. I did do 3 sets the other day without the creatine, and I only got 1 cramp later when I did something wrong. Kind of dropped myself, down on the floor the wrong way and stood back up, but it's nowhere near where it has been. So I'm going to kind of assess this today, and I may take these up to 3 sets next time. But even 2 sets, we're getting good stimulus because I went a lot harder on the glute ham raises because I haven't had the glute ham raise for a while. And I think the direction I'm going, when I look at where my lifts were going up really, really well right after my last meet, while I was starting to get ready for nationals, ready for worlds, which, as you guys know, didn't come to fruition, and not much I can do about it. I did a lot of reverse hypers. I was doing up to 10 sets in a workout. Same thing with the band press downs. These really seem to help my lifts a lot. And these are movements that we can get away with high volume. A lot of this other stuff we do, we could argue about stimulus to fatigue. We could talk about overreaching, overuse. I think when it comes to those other 2 movements, though, because of the prehab nature of them, I don't think these things are as big of a concern. I really don't. I feel like those are some of the movements we can do really, really high volumes on to go ahead and maximize hypertrophy, to maximize, tendon health, back health. Because think about it for a moment with the reverse hyper. That's why we do it. It's the back health, it's the traction, it's the recovery. In other words, we can handle a ton of it. And I was doing 10 sets twice a week for a little while. And you know what? It pushed my deadlifts back up. Even though later I started pushing more and more weight on it. And I will continue to do that. I'm also using a newer device, so the angles and stuff are a little bit different. And I felt like I got a good stimulus with this, even with only 450 pounds. And I ended up doing 7 sets of 10. But I think that's the way to go. Come in and maximize stimulus to fatigue on your movements that give you your hypertrophy. In this case for me, it's going to be, for benching, it's going to be benching and incline benching with barbells, dumbbells. For the other stuff, it's going to be the belt squats. It's going to be the glute ham raises. Right? This is the stuff, along with the speed work, that builds my maxes. This is what really builds the maxes. So then we can take these other movements that bring a lot to the table, that I seem to get direct carryover. At least my closed grip bench gets direct carryover from those bands. Seems to get direct carryover, and then it makes me question, if I push that much volume on it outside of all my normal pressing, I may not need any other tricep work for a bit. That really seems to do the job. My triceps got bigger, they got stronger, my tendons improved. And I noticed when I reduced it for a little while, I noticed my bench stalled. I was well on my way back to a 405 bench when I was doing 10 sets of those. All right, we look at the deadlifts. My deadlifts pulled up past 600 again when I was doing the really high volume reverse hypers. Then it kind of stalled a little. Then notice as I got a little further into that cut, what happened. I did a 615 that felt really heavy and looked a little grindy when I had been doing 625 super clean. I'm talking looked like an opener. See where we're going here? There are movements like this, even if I limit everything else and say we're going to keep the volume super tame on all this other stuff. There's some of these movements, the prehab nature of them, that lets us get away with very, very large volumes of training. And incidentally, they're for important muscles. And it's because they were picking ones that are for important muscles is why. Not saying you would get the same strength carryover if you picked a completely different muscle, but in this case, triceps for benching. Your whole low back and glutes for deadlifting, right? And as I've said, this even seems to improve my grip. When I was doing the really high volumes of this on the glute ham raise, even my grip was getting better, which makes sense. But, we're also going to keep working on body composition at the moment. I need to get leaner, need to fill out the 220, right? And that's the goal. That is the goal. So I ended up doing 7 sets of these today. I'll build it back up to 10, I think, next week. We'll build it back up. But as they stand, I'm pretty happy with them overall. And we'll just keep building it up. All right, guys, well, that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys next time.